Aloha to the beautiful collective and fam out there, yo. So, let's talk about something that is now deemed an essential good when, it's funny, you still have people locked up right now for something that is now deemed essential. But that's another story. We'll come back to that. And that is talking about cannabis, okay? So, in this video, we're going to talk about a few different things. First of all, I want to teach you, all right, the way that you can level up your consumption of cannabis, all right, and the most beneficial and least harmful ways, all the way down from the worst of the worst, all the way to the best of the best, which is truly talking about medicinal properties and medicinal sources now, okay? And then I also want to teach you in the process my experience, all right, why I stopped any form of inhalation of smoke and vapor, and then also even going to include some epic herbs for you that can help nourish, repair the lungs, and also expel mucus, right? So let's get right on into it. Let's start with the lowest of the rung, okay? And that is going to be anything that is in a blunt, okay? Anything that is in a blunt. Now, this is a backwood that I was gifted at a workshop many years ago. I stopped smoking backwoods in any form of blunts many years ago, way before I went vegan and all these different things. That was one of the first steps that I took, right, to really awakening. And it's funny when I look back on it right now, this is one of the starts for me of really coming to teach people. It was about this, getting off of the blunts and getting on to levels up. I was preaching, trying to teach everybody as I came around and woke up myself, right? But this is the lowest of the lowest, all right? First of all right, anytime you have something that you have to put fire to the end, basically fire always changes the structure, and basically almost in all cases, of course there's some rare exceptions I'm sure, but in almost all cases fire is going to destroy and diminish the properties, okay? Now what happens is the fire forms combustion, okay? So the fire forms carcinogens through the combustion, right? That's why you have things like charred foods and barbecue foods that have been proven to be way more carcinogen than something that's baked. It's because that ash that forms on the food, that's literally the carcinogens right there, right? So one, you have combustion. Anything that you have to put fire to, that's a no-no. That's not a good look. It releases a much lower spectrum of benefits, and it basically destroys all the other benefits, right? And then the double whammy is that you're putting it in a blunt that is shown right on this package. What it's going to do to you, all right? It's basically a slow kill, all right? They don't even, hide it. They show you right there on the package on the Surgeon General's warning, right? So, one, that's the lowest of the lowest, putting anything in a blunt, right? And that's where I started, of course, like probably all of us did. In fact, the first thing I ever wrote up when I was 13 was in a literal green posted paper, right? But then we all, most of us Phillies and all these different things, that's the lowest of the lowest, all right? You gotta at least become civilized and smoke like an adult if you're going to at least consume, right? So, moving up from there, we have something like moving to a paper, right? So a paper, you still have the combustion there, you still have the, the ash and the carcinogen from the combustion and the ash, but at least you avoided one of the fuckeries in the tobacco, right? So at least now it's not a total double-edged sword, double whammy, right? It's important if you're getting a paper to opt for a organic, clean, bleach-free paper though. Let me state that as well, all right? So then you want to maybe move up a little bit from there. Maybe you consider some glass, okay? So the glass is going to add a little bit more filtration. It's also going to help to cool the smoke a little bit. So that's going to be a little bit, just a little bit though, maybe more beneficial than, your flat out, but you still have the fire, you still have the combustion. So it's almost one and the same, right? Now, you want to really start to level up like I did. This volcano is probably damn near 10 years old, probably like a good 8 years old. So I've had this for a long time. It became my everyday use, okay? Volcano Vaporizer by Stork and Bickel, right? So your volcano vaporizers in general, but they're not all created equal, but in particular your volcano vaporizer, it releases basically a full spectrum of the benefits. So you have all these different things besides THC. You have THC-V, CBD, all these different things that the fire and the combustion destroys. This, you put this in this bag, you fill up this bag right here, and it's pure vapor. And it releases a much larger profile and spectrum of medicinal benefits of the cannabis plant, right? Also, I don't have the trench. I should have brought the trench, but it's a trench, you know, kind of like a bowl or whatever. You put the herb in the trench. You can use this trench to fill up like 3 different bags with about, you know, half the amount you would have used to make a joint, right? So it will stretch your money, it'll stretch your herb. It's way healthier. But at the end of the day, we cannot fool ourselves that any form of smoke or vapor, even if it's vapor, is beneficial to the lungs. It's all an irritant, right? It's just levels, right? So let's keep leveling up, right? Also, we have, this is made by the same people as the Stork and Bickle, the Volcano. But this is pretty much like a portable volcano vaporizer, essentially, right? But this is the cream of the crop right here. You're talking about vaporizers. We got a Puffco Peak right here. So now, when you know, want to level up again, you start to talk about edibles, all right, and eating the cannabis rather than smoking it or vaping it, right? So here we have an infused coconut oil. Okay, this is an infused coconut oil. So we'll take this, and we can do anything with this we want, but typically I'll make this into cookies. All right, we have some, you know, all natural, fuckery free, gluten free vegan cookies that we'll make out of that. All right. So now you want to talk about leveling up from there. You can talk about an infused MCT oil. Okay, MCT stands for medium chain triglyceride. So this is a medium chain triglyceride oil infused with hash, right? So this is a very natural idle product. Of course, we're avoiding all the combustion and stuff with that. Now, you want to really get into talking about truly medicinal healing properties of the cannabis plant. We start to talk about this right here, okay? This is known as RSO, okay? RSO stands for Rick Simpson oil, okay? Also known as Phoenix Tears, also known as FICO, which stands for full extract cannabis oil. Those are all different terms for the same thing, right? Now, this has been proven, many testimonials to heal dis-ease, in particular Big C. I mean, I've saw some profound stories. There's a brain surgeon who had brain cancer. He opted out of, you know, traditional things, and he used the cannabis oil and healed his brain tumor with the cannabis oil. All right, now these are just testimonials that I heard. I'm not a doctor. These are just things that I'm relaying to you that I heard. Do your own research, but I really recommend you look into RSO, Rick Simpson oil, Phoenix Tears, FICO, or full extract cannabis oil. Again, those are all same terms or different terms for the same thing, right? So this is also one of the best ways to help you promote deep sleep. There's a regimen where you go on if you're really trying to heal the Big C and dis-ease, where you will consume 60 grams in 60 days. So basically you work up to 1 gram a day. But to start, you only need a tiny little rice grain size of this, and it is going to probably likely induce sleep, especially if you're not used to it, right? So this is a beautiful sleep aid as well, right? So let's talk about, you know, my experience very quickly. I have not inhaled any form of smoke or vapor in 100 days. All right, I actually have it written on the calendar, been keeping track. We were at 83 days here. Now, Friday the 19th, we're at 100 days, no inhalation of any smoke or vapor, all right? So let me explain to you very quickly, you know, how I got to this point. Again, started at 13, rolling cannabis up, taken from, elders and whatnot, in a green Post-it paper, right? So then, you know, again, we all start with the blunts, but eventually, you know, I learned about, you know, vaporizers and releasing a fuller spectrum, combustion, you know, carcinogens, all these different things, you know, but I fooled myself for a long time to think that, you know, this was, beneficial to me, or I didn't really need to stop. Where again, any form of inhalation, whether it be smoke or vapor, is not going to be beneficial for the lungs. It's always going to still be an irritant, right? So what really started to trip me out is when I really got into deep breathing, right? I got into a deep breathing process, and I learned the benefits of breathing in through the nose, not the mouth or the chest, and filling up the belly with breath, right? It's diaphragmatic breathing. Anything else considered shallow breathing. So, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm using this, and we're sucking in through the mouth and out through the mouth. So in, out through the mouth, all shallow breathing, right? So that really started to kind of fuck with me and trip me out when I got into my deep breathing. I'm like, well, here I am, you know, spending a lot of time performing shallow breathing. It's affecting my lungs, all right? So that was one of the main things that really started to wake me up to know that I really got to get away from this, right? Because I'm sitting over here preaching and practicing deep breathing, but yet I'm spending half my time breathing in through my mouth and filling the lungs with vapor and smoke, right? So there were other things though, you know, like I started to think about all the time that I was spending away from the family, you know. I didn't just do this out front of them, so I'm like in a room off by myself and whatever, and you know, it starts to become a lot. A lot of time you start to think about you're spending away from your family. Also, never mind the time, you're spending a lot of money, you know, it's money that's going out from the family or whatever, right? So, I also want to state that everyone is built with an endocannabinoid system in their body, right? So I do think that cannabis has a place. I just don't think that it's inhaling smoke or vapor, especially not to the extent that I did. Now, I overdid it, you know, to be quite honest with you. So maybe you're in a different position, you know, you have moderation. Moderation is key. You don't want to abuse anything, all right? So, you know, cannabis just the same. You don't want to come to a point where you are abusing it, right? Like I did. So, I got to a point where I just had to stop. So now I'm 100 days. I feel much better, you know. I'm much happier. I'm starting to come into modes where I literally will rhyme everything that's coming out of my mouth. So it's cheered me up, actually. You know, it's picked me up. You know, of course I have more energy now. Of course I have more also, you know, lung capacity. I don't go up steps and, you know, out of breath. Also mucus, right? When I smoked these, right, blunts, I used to have like a bottle around me to have to spit in because I had so much fucking mucus building up, right? That slowly started to go away, but not totally, all right? Now, sometimes I like go to clear my throat and be nothing there. It's almost weird to me, right? There's nothing there. So let's transition on to some herbs that can help you for any smokers or anybody, for honestly, for that opinion. And if you don't smoke cannabis, you know, a lot of people do smoke cannabis, but if you don't, I want you to share this with somebody that does, because there's a lot of people that do right now, right? And again, I think it's funny that, you know, this is something that is deemed an essential good while you still got people locked up for it, all right? There's people like Monsanto trying to buy, you know, in heavy. They don't buy in through Monsanto. They buy it through subsidiary corporations where you would never even know it was tracked back to Monsanto unless you did your work. So there's people like Wesley Muhammad that are, you know, trying to expose the cannabis being weaponized. So I want you to keep that in mind. You got to get to a trusted source if you're not growing your own, and get as close as you can to the source and to the farmer as possible, right? So, so I was saying, you know, I had a lot of mucus. So some herbs that can really help you are herbs like mullein, okay? Herbs like lungwort, all right? Herbs like lobelia, right? These can all help to nourish the lungs and also expel mucus, all right? Also, oil of oregano, also wild cherry bark. These are very, very beneficial herbs. And again, these herbs are for anybody because it's a toxic environment, pollution, all these different factors. But especially for smokers, all right, you got to try to mitigate some of the damage to your lungs, right, by, you know, consuming some herbs that are beneficial. Now, again, I do think that the cannabis plant is beneficial. You're built with the endocannabinoid system for a reason, right? Also, I want to state that, you know, I forgot to include, I don't have any fan leaves. Fan leaves, the fan leaf of the cannabis, that would probably be all the way at the top. You juice those fan leaves like you would juice anything else. You receive mega benefits without any psychoactive properties and benefits, all right? So that would just be like juicing anything else. You receive a lot of benefits. That would be at the very top with the RSO, right? So I hope that this helps you. You know, I received a lot of profound feedback from me starting to share my experience and my testimonial. So I figured I got to share this with y'all. Again, this is one of the first ways where I started teaching when I look back on it. I was trying to teach people how to move away from these blunts and on the things that are more beneficial, like, you know, eating and vapor, volcano and vaporizers and stuff like that, right? So I hope that this video helped you. I'm not judging anybody. Again, just try to have some moderation. Try to get as clean source as you can and close to the actual source and the farmer as you can. And consider things like eating over combustion, which releases carcinogens, all right? What else can I say? You know, anything else we'll include it in the caption because I'm already running on 15 minutes and they don't let me go over 15 minutes for some reason posted on IGTV. So, with that being said, much love and respect. Even more perspective in the caption because I love y'all so very much. Much love and mahalo.